Hello guys and gals of the internet, Sword here. Thanks for dropping by, and today is day 9 of VEDIM. And today, since I just came back home from my first year of college, I thought I would tell you all how that experience went. So let's get started. Alright, to start off, I just want to let you all know that everyone's experience is going to be different. For me, I went to the University of Georgia, which is located in Athens, Georgia, and it has a student body of over 36,000 people. So of course that's going to be a very different experience from, say, someone who goes to a community college or a private school with a much smaller number. And even if you do go to a big school like UGA or even UGA itself, you're gonna have a very different experience from me for a number of reasons. So keep all of that in mind and take my experience as a grain of salt. So rather than telling the year like a full storybook, I'm going to divide it up in little sections, and I'll leave the sections down below. I know there's a word for it, but I can't remember the exact term at the moment. So the times where I'm talking about different points. The first one is the time before, as well as like moving in. So the summer before my first year of college, I was very excited, but also a little nervous. I had gotten accepted into the school I wanted to go to, so that was very exciting, but also this was a very different experience from high school. And though a few people from my school who graduated with me were also going to this school, there wasn't anyone that I knew really well, so I was kind of nervous about that. I was having to leave my very close-knit group of friends behind, but I was very excited because this was a new town, a new school, and I knew there were going to be a whole lot of new experiences. So definitely my excitement outweighed the nervousness, but it was still there. So I was looking up a whole bunch of YouTube videos like this one, more so dorm room videos, because I kind of channeled the nervousness and excitement into planning for the dorm room. But yeah, definitely watching all these different YouTube videos just helped me be more excited and less nervous about the fall. So definitely when I first moved in, I was a bit intimidated just because it seemed like everyone was older than me, or at least looked older than me. It seemed like even the fellow freshmen looked older than me. So I was kind of concerned about that, but after a few weeks I realized that, hey, we're all here to get an education, have a good time, and people don't care about age nearly as much as they did in high school. The lines between grades are definitely more blurred in college than they were in high school and before, so that's been really nice. I've had more of an opportunity to make friends with upperclassmen, much more than I did in high school. So that's been really nice. Actually, some of my closest friends in college are juniors and seniors. So that's been really cool, although when they graduate, that's not gonna be as cool, but you know, we won't worry about that right now, will we? So that perfectly connects to the next point I want to talk about, which is the social aspect of college. I'm talking about that before academics because honestly the social aspect does make, in some senses, a bigger impact on your experience than the classes themselves. So with my experience, like I said before, I was kind of intimidated at first and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make friends, and it took a little while before I felt like I found my tribe. You know, I'm kind of person, I like a small group of really close friends rather than having like hundreds of acquaintances. So I was concerned about whether or not I was going to be able to find that group of people. But then before I went to UGA, I went on Facebook and I looked for groups that I'd be interested in, and one thing I looked up was vegan UGA, and there was this page that came up called Speak Out for Species. And even though it's not a vegan group, it is an animal rights group with a heavy focus on veganism as the best way to promote animal rights and to help in the fight against cruelty against animals. So I was very interested in this group, and I started going to their meetings. And I went to their, besides meetings, the first event I went to with them was an ice cream social at someone's apartment. It was kind of a mixed experience at first because I was so excited about finally meeting other vegans, because in the small town that I'm from, my family and I were the only vegans that I knew of. And to be able to come to Athens and see 20 to 30 vegans at a time plus, that was amazing. But it was kind of slow going with making genuine connections with these people. It wasn't like an instant click and I felt like I was in. It was a slow process, and I think that had a lot to do with my own awkwardness. It wasn't as much to do with them, it was more to do with me. So that was definitely that. It took a little while, but slowly but surely I started making these wonderful connections with different people in the group, especially a couple in particular. I don't know how this started exactly, but I started giving them rides back to their place after meetings and events because they didn't have cars and they needed someone to drive. So I was like, I have a car, I can drive you. And I started doing that more and more, and we ended up getting really close because even though they're relatively short drives, you know, you do that enough times, you get to know people, unless they're really quiet, which they aren't. So that's how I got to know a couple in particular really well, and then others I got to know through different events that I would do, whether it was volunteering at the animal sanctuary or going to socials or just meetings or whatever. You know, through the combination of all of that, I really got to know these different people, not all of them, but majority of them. And honestly, that was how I made most of my friends. It was through that group. I also got to know some people who lived on my hall. Most of them I never really saw, but there were a few in particular who were very friendly. And I would see them all the time, and we became pretty good friends through that. And of course, I would say my first friend I made at UGA was my roommate. We met through a Facebook group of people trying to find other people to be roommates with. And through the summer, we Skyped with each other, and it just turned out that we really clicked really well. So by being roommates, we got to know more and more about each other, and we became really close through the year. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to room together next year because we had different preferences with a living situation, what we wanted to do, so unfortunately it didn't work out. But I can definitely say I was very lucky with who I got as a roommate, because most people I heard were hating their roommates by the end of the year, but I still really liked mine. So we're definitely, even though we're not going to be roommates next year, we're definitely going to keep in touch. And I'm very glad I was able to have her as a roommate and as a first UGA friend. So I also made some friends, more so acquaintances, through some other groups that I was in. I started writing for a magazine called Infusion Magazine, and I got really close with, I got fairly close with the online section that I worked for, especially the 3 editors that I had. All 3 of them were really great people, so I got to get to know them better. And beyond that, I also made a couple of friends in different classes. There are some classes where I didn't really talk to anyone, but then there are other classes where there would be these really outgoing, gregarious people who introduced themselves to me, and we ended up clicking, and we're still friends now. So that was a couple of people. One in particular I'm thinking about in Spanish class 2nd semester, and that's how I made most of my friends. A lot of people, when they talk about the social experience at UGA, talk about like going out, and especially in Athens, there's definitely a big drinking scene, even underage, but I was not interested in doing that, so I did not go out in that sense. As far as like hanging out with people went, it was a very different experience. I would do things such as, like, we had a few bonfires throughout the year. I'd go to those, and then hanging out at different events and socials and grabbing some food. And one girl came with me to get my nose piercing, and we hung out before that. So that was how I was social. It was definitely, and I was able to make some good friends through it, and I was able to meet people through going to clubs that I was interested in. So that definitely goes to show you don't have to go out at night to meet people. You don't have to start drinking to be social. You have options when it comes to making friends. So don't feel forced to go out if you don't want to go out, because I know definitely me, I just don't like that. It's never appealed to me, so I didn't do it, you know? And that's okay. That's totally okay. I met some great friends, and that's what matters. Alright, so on to what parents are probably more interested in, which is academics. And you should be interested in it too, because that's kind of the point of college. Definitely it's more a point of getting that education and learning a few things. So as a first year, I was not taking any major courses. I was taking general education, well, for the most part, but definitely my major did have an influence on the classes I took. I am pre-journalism with a sociology minor. I have not taken any classes yet for sociology, but I have taken one course for journalism, which was the one prerequisite before applying to Grady. And yeah, even though I already made it to UGA, next spring I'm going to have to apply to the School of Journalism. It's great. It's Grady and Terry. Terry's the business college. We're the only two colleges that have to apply for our major. Everyone else gets in, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll get through it. Although, to be fair, with the science majors, with the course requirements that they have to do, that's application enough. Because my roommate is a plant bio major, and so just hearing the different classes that she had to take, so much chemistry, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I took over the course of 2 semesters. So the big classes, it was 5 and 5, but there were 2 smaller classes, a lab and a first year Odyssey seminar that I took first semester. So yeah, 12 courses, and they were really interesting. Even with courses that I wasn't too interested in from the start, such as science, I was able to find some classes that were really interesting. Like first semester I took meteorology, and then second semester I took a natural resource conservation, and both of those covered my science requirement. The only class that I can say I genuinely disliked was math, and honestly, it's math. For someone like me who is more linguistically inclined, I'm never gonna like math. Although next semester I am taking something that was described as math for the real world, so maybe that'll change things. Maybe I will finally enjoy a math class, or at the very least not hate it. But every other class I absolutely loved, including, or especially, the 2 English courses that I took. I was lucky enough to have the same professor for both English classes that were required, and so I got to really know her. She's a graduate student. So that was it was really nice to have that consistency through both the courses. I also took Spanish. I was considering for a while minoring in Spanish, but then I decided it wasn't for me. Now, I just said a second ago that I'm linguistically inclined. I don't mean in the sense of learning language. I mean in the sense of using the language I already know with journalism. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people who can pick up on languages easily. And of course, learning a language is never going to be easy, but for some people it comes more naturally than others. And unfortunately, it is a really big struggle for me because it's a lot of memorization, and I struggle with memorization for the long term. So it didn't work out for me. Nonetheless, I did enjoy the courses for the most part. I definitely enjoyed the first semester more than the second semester. And I think that's mostly because by second semester, I knew I wasn't gonna minor in it, so I was done at that point. But it was still interesting nonetheless, and hopefully I'll be able to hold on to Spanish that I know. I mean, unfortunately, you know, if you don't use the language, you kind of lose it, so we'll see how that goes. Because I would love to learn Spanish. It's just, I don't think I can learn it in a regular classroom environment. I would have to do it more of like through just on the street, through trial and error mostly. But I also took some unique courses that I didn't even know were a thing. Like for the first year Odyssey, it was about UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is definitely an interest of mine since I want to be a travel writer. So that was really cool. And this second semester, like I said, I've taken one journalism class. It was called Media, Consumers, and the News, and it was the first time the course had ever been taught. So needless to say, it was a little rough going, but I would say at least a third of that class is definitely stuff I'm going to take with me. We talked a lot about journalism ethics the first third of the semester. That was definitely very interesting to me. Unfortunately, the other 2/3 was talking about things that weren't as interesting, such as the history of communication, which wasn't just about journalism. It was also things like television and telephone and things like that, so it wasn't as interesting from then on, unfortunately. But it was definitely, I mean, it was a mixed class, but definitely the parts I enjoyed, I really enjoyed, and it was kind of a little taste of journalism. But overall, I really enjoyed my courses. I think it's important to work with your advisor. Make sure you have a balanced schedule, because it's definitely easy to get overwhelmed if you have the wrong combination of classes. Like with this past semester, I had history and English together, which both required essays, and that was kind of difficult because I was having to churn out essays on a regular basis. It just kept on going. So I got through it just because I'm used to writing a lot. I'm able to write quickly and efficiently, so that was fine for me. But I know that definitely could have been overwhelming had I not had that experience. And definitely if I had put a math class on top of that, then I would have been overwhelmed. So that was the main thing you could take away from this, is definitely make sure your schedule is balanced. That's so important if you want to have a good experience with your academics. Alright, so I have done a lot of talking. I'm going to leave it at that because the camera's telling me there's only 6 minutes left before it shuts itself off. But just a few last notes. If you are worried about going to college, don't. I promise you that if you open yourself up to it, you are going to have a wonderful experience. I've definitely enjoyed my time here. I absolutely love Athens, and it has opened my eyes to all the different possibilities that are out there. Like I said, I come from a small town, so there are a whole lot of things that I'd never been exposed to before that I was able to experience for the first time. And it helped me understand better what I want moving forward. Like after college, what kind of town do I want to live in? With magazine writing, what kind of job do I want to have? What kind of people I want to surround myself with, and what kind of communities I want to get connected with, and just what I want to do. And I think it's so important, whether or not you go to college, it's so important to have that clear idea of what direction you want to head in, even if you don't know your major, just more in general sense, with the people and the community and the things you want to do. So that is all for now. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you are in college, let me know about your experience down below in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories, and if you've made a video even, leave a link in the comments below and I'd love to watch it. But I'm going to leave this here. If you have any more questions about college that I didn't address, or even if you want me to make a video answering questions or whatever, I'm open to whatever, it's VEDIM. But till next time, stay sharp, my friends.